What's up, friends? My name's host Eric, and I'm here today with some universal relationship advice. You got to either love somebody or change them. You can't do both. Okay. If you're in a relationship where you're trying to fix your partner because they're not doing things right in some fashion, that's not a good relationship to be in. I just had a typing session with this lady, and INFJ lady, and she's in the relationship that Rachel used to be in, where with a TE person trying to fix her TE polar all the time, critiquing, saying, "No, look, you just need to be more productive, do more shit, meh, 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 meh." I'm like, boy, oh boy, this fellow of yours. Well, it's true of any relationship, regardless of TE. The thing is, I did this in my first marriage too. I tried to fix my wife's use of FI. I tried to explain to her that's not how you make good decisions. That's not how you think. That's not a good reason for things. Your feelings aren't relevant here. We need to talk about words, not feelings. You're doing it wrong. I projected all that shit onto my first wife too. So I'm guilty of it in the past, but I've learned from those experiences. I am not like that anymore. It's really easy not to project my biases onto Rachel because we're compatible with the 2-3 flipped, which is super important, Having the 2-3 flipped functionally means for Rachel and me that she doesn't have to worry about explicitly making her boundaries explicit, because I'm always looking for cues of where her boundaries might be and trying not to cross them. And for me, I don't have to worry about my own TE shittiness because hers is so much worse that she'll never critique me on it, So I get the fact that it's not just TE that's a problem here. What I'm saying is, in any relationship, if your cognitive function stack is such that you feel a compelling need to fix what's wrong with your partner because they're not cognating correctly, that's a clear sign that you are in a typologically incompatible relationship. So it could be as simple as somebody hating SI. Can you imagine an ENFJ in a relationship with, say, an ESFJ who comes home every day and begins to tell them a sequence of SIFE stories? It's going to be torture, right? They don't want to hear all that SE shit. Even with this INFJ I just typed, when I started demonstrating what an ESTJ's SI stories are like, well, first I went down to the Firestone and dropped the car off because there was a piece that was hanging down from the bottom of the car and you get it reattached, you see. Then we drove back to the house. I checked on some things online. I needed to check on the accounts, and I emailed Ron, and it's just like, you can see the eyes just glazing over. So the thing about FI is, you're right, it's not fixed. None of the cognitive functions are fixed. They're all processes. But the thing is, it's wrong to try to fix somebody else's cognitive function stack because it runs afoul of your own. There's presumption there that your own cognitive function stack is inherently superior, and that the failure of the other person to be like you is indicative of their need to change, which is, of course, completely bullshit, right? There's just a natural conflict between the stacks and the way that you guys go about doing things. Now, this is different than in my last relationship. In my last relationship, it wasn't a cognitive function stack problem. It was the problem articulated in the title here. You can try to love, or you can try to change, critique, criticize, or whatever somebody, but you can't do both. And Kimberly was continually trying to critique, cut me down, criticize, compare, whatever. I don't remember. I don't remember what episode I'm on. I paused and watched a couple other things. I'll probably go back to it though. I'm glad you reminded me of it. I got so many animes in the mix that I forget what I'm watching, you know? Yeah, love or change. So, you know, this woman I typed, she was talking about being in a relationship where she doesn't provide a lot of tangible utility to the partner. In other words, she's not working and her partner is very frustrated by her apparent lack of life ambition or clear path of how she's going to have a career or whatever. She's fairly young, you know. And it's like, okay. It's so easy to abuse an advantage, you know? And that's exactly what he's doing. He's abusing an advantage. He's got resources, the job, the work, and stuff, and he's using that to put pressure on his significant other to be different than she is. If he wants a significant other who's like him, he should get one, you know, instead of trying to constantly shape the one he has into the person he's like her to be, you know? Is Eric a decider? I'm not sure what you mean by that term. Monster is the heaviest anime, but it is such a masterpiece. I haven't seen it, but maybe I'll look into it. I'm very interested in talking about this relationship thing because I see a healthy relationship as being very easy to define. You know, both people in the relationship need to be concerned foremost about the commitment to the relationship and to loving the other person first and foremost. There may be circumstances in which there are conflicts and stuff in which one person has to correct the other or whatever, but it's it ought to be done reluctantly. If you're in a relationship where you have a habit of busting each other's chops, or where your partner has a habit of busting your chops, telling you what you're doing wrong, correcting you and stuff, get out of that relationship. It's not a good relationship to be in. Of course, a lot of times people feel trapped in relationships because of practicalities. Yeah, so Third King 9, we try to avoid misleading stuff like that around here. We can't determine a person's type, Gamma Quadra, with some sort of heuristic like that. That's how people who are spreading a lot of misinformation about typology muddy the issue. It's actually a lot more straightforward than that, and also not so simple. It's like you can't simply apply a are you a this or a that and make a determination. You got to ask questions. You got to determine what the processes are like. There's a person's affect, which is what we can normally see, but we can get into their processes and stuff if you ask the right kind of questions. You should watch some of my typing videos and you can see how it's done right. Well, I mean, I don't disagree with binaries, Gamma Quadra. In fact, I recognize the world is made up of distinctly two kinds of concepts, basically, or delineations. One of them is binary and one of them is sliding scale. We can link those to experiential and communicative functions. But the important thing to remember is not that we can't make binary distinctions in terms of our descriptions of types. Sure, we can, but we're making a huge mistake then to think that we can use those descriptive binaries as a means of typing people. That's the most important thing to remember, and that's what people get wrong. You like the part where Eric lectured him on physics? Did I lecture Benjamin on physics? I don't remember that. I do tend to like to lecture people on things. IKR. Ah ha ha ha. What's IKR? Oh yeah, I know, right? Okay. Cool. Well, remember that words are static, and we're always describing these processes with static words. And so we tend to talk about cognitive functions as in snapshots, even though they're moving pictures. It's much more easy for us to talk about them in snapshots than as though they were moving pictures. And so a lot of those kind of metaphorical issues are gonna happen unavoidably as far as Skygear. Although we'd like to be more precise in our language, we have to acknowledge that communication is so filled with metaphor, it's almost impossible to eliminate it entirely. What do I think of animals and sexual modalities? I mean, I don't know how to answer that question. Hi, Sean Ryan Barrett. I have no idea how to answer that question. What do I think of animals? What does that have to do with sexual modalities? By sexual modalities, do you mean like anal or vaginal? Like what mode of sex or I don't know. I don't know about OP's nonsense. Yeah, I don't bother looking into stuff that's clearly ridiculous and arbitrary. Just because you can taxonomy something in a given way is not a reason to conclude that that taxonomy is representative of an actual mechanics. And that's exactly what OP has done. They made that base level faulty assumption and like driven it to the ends of the earth. No sex is worth exploring. Well, I mean, somebody's either got to have a very large nostril or, the alternative. Why don't we do it in the nose? Why don't we do it in the nose? Well, the dong doesn't have to go inside of the nose, I suppose, for the dong to have sex with the nose. Could just, hump the side of the nose. What claim are you refusing to accept? That hedonism isn't SE oriented? I mean, I would say that hedonism links to action functions in general. So I'm pretty hedonistic, and I'm an hedon. Yeah, right, exactly. Women are just the recipient of dongians. That's all. We're not going to treat them as though their vaginas have any other purpose. And imagine if you have ultra huge nose. If your girlfriend has an ultra huge nose and you have a small dong, you do what you got to do. Yeah. What's Sue's entire philosophy about? Rick Benson? Rick Benson's about that. Hey guys, it's me, Rick Benson. First of all, can I just say that you and two-tards need to get away from your computers and go do some shit, all right? I was talking to an two-tard the other day, and he was talking about how he's scared to talk to girls. It's like, bro, you just get up, you walk over, you say, hey, it's that easy. You just need to stop thinking so much about what might go wrong and just get up and do it. All right? What's the absolute worst name you could give your child? Well, I mean, for 4 4s underscore lowercase hello would be a bad first name. How would you spell it? It would be tricky. Or how about you had a daughter, you could call her Jizz Junkie. That'd be a terrible name for a daughter. It's like my ex-wife talked about this girl whose last name in high school was Seaman. And I just wonder, her parents could have named her Loves to Drink or Seeker of, Slake My Thirst With. You have a friend named Incel? That's funny. Well, Amy Schumer tried to name her kid Jean Attell Schumer until she realized that she had just named her kid Genital. And she changed it. I think a particularly terrible name is Elon Musk's name for his kid, XEAO12 or whatever, EIEIO. I think a really bad name for a child would be Chastity. There are some girls named Chastity. It's like, if you name your daughter Chastity, she's going to be a huge whore. Just no avoiding it. I think Crystal's a bad name, especially with a K and a Y. CRIS, Cristal, maybe, is also a bad name. Putting D in L is generally a bad thing. For example, Eric de Methina Crystal. Methina Crystal's a pretty great name. I think it would be kind of mean to name your kid Agamemnon, the ancient Greek name. Agamemnon, and Agamemnon, Pliny the Elder Strauss. A kind of an unnecessarily complicated name. I note names, good names all the time. Names that would be good for books or something. When I was at the cemetery the other day, there was this guy named and he was dead, named John Tallman Williams or something like that. Tallman's a great middle name. Beelzebub would be a bad name for a kid. Or perhaps Pachyderm. Pachyderm's not a good name for a kid. You wouldn't want to name your kid Pachyderm. Or how about rancid befoulment. Rancid befoulment, Strauss. What if your partner is in crisis and change is necessary? Should you recuse yourself? No, I'm not expecting. So the thing is, Freddie Forgiato asks a good question and something that I wanted to address, and I'm glad he brings it up, which is there's a difference between trying to change your partner and trying to fix something specific that's wrong. So, or trying to see him through a crisis. Changing your partner, what I'm talking about is when things are normal, you don't like the way they are and they want them to be different. You want them to be different. But like Rachel, she had a mental health issue when we first started going out. And that ultimately ended up in a psychotic break and her being hospitalized and stuff like that. Now, I couldn't ultimately have stayed with her forever if I hadn't solved that problem. But that was a matter of her being victimized by about a decade's worth of really, really bad and almost willfully bad mental health care that she'd been receiving, and a ontologically aggressive environment that made it impossible for her to really relax. The thing is, once we got the right medication, bam, that's fixed, and she's actually Rachel, and then no problems. So it's the difference between trying to change somebody and trying to fix an actual problem. Hi there, lady.
Hi there, handsome.
If let's say your significant other loses a loved one and they're grieving and they're having a hard time with it and it takes them a couple months, of course you should stick with that. That's not trying to change them. You're just acknowledging that you're there for them through a rough period. That's a very different thing. What I'm talking about is what this person I was typing earlier was talking about, which is basically a continual pattern of critique and trying to get the person to be different, like trying to get them to be more outcome oriented, trying to get them to get a job and work harder. And you just need a job and you just need a meow, meow, and you'll be fine, is what this lady I was talking to earlier was hearing in her relationship. And in fact, I gave her your phone number and encouraged her to call you because it sounds like exactly the relationship you were once in.
Oh, really?
I don't know if she will or not, Melissa? Because she's also a INFJ. What?
Melissa?
Yeah, right.
Oh.
Hi, New Jack. So, Rachel was in a relationship with an INTJ who also had accountability avoidance disorder, which is to say they didn't like to be wrong or admit they were wrong or acknowledge anything or try to make things right with words. And as a consequence, there's just sort of this growing sense of unfairness. And if one partner has sort of situational advantage over the other, like, well, I'm not really in a position to move out kind of thing, then shit can get really toxic. And one of the things that can help prevent that is to have a third party voice say, just to be absolutely clear, well, what's happening here is unacceptable, and you are dealing with a fundamentally abusive individual, and don't internalize any of it, and don't think that it's less clear-cut than it is if you were. Now, I don't think she really was because she was in IDOM. Highlight, Joe. It's really a matter of, do you choose to weaponize the things you observe about your partner? Everybody's partner has elements about them that you could turn against them if you choose to. So, like, the other day, Rachel was trying to catch a fish and she knocked over all the shit in the aquarium. And I had it put up that way carefully and stuff. And I came out here and I'm like, what did you do? I was genuinely upset about it for a second. but it didn't cause any kind of big deal. And it's not something that I would ever reference in order to say, to attack. It's like, um, people, people, people who are sort of at odds with each other tend to uh, hold on to pieces of ammunition and then um, use them against their partner to make them to win some other argument later. Well, you say that you're mad, but you remember how you moved all the rocks in the aquarium that time.
Yes.
Right? People tend to do that. But that never happens with me and Rachel. Because we're on the same page fundamentally. So a beautiful Dwang, have I ever rightfully beat a woman? Well, to rightfully beat a woman, one would have to either be in a boxing match, an organized boxing match with one, or we'll have to be legitimately engaging in self-defense. That is to say, she attacked you first, and then you had to hit back because they weren't relenting or something. It would be the only context in which you could legitimately do so. I don't know what the kindred spirit relations is. Can you give me an example of two types who are the kindred spirit relation? I'm not sure which relationship that refers to. I've never heard that expression before, I don't think. It's good to know who you are. I can't love people through issues. I love by helping them solve problems, and that's not what most people need. When it gets too bad, best thing I can do is save myself. Well, the thing is, there are people who want to be loved by having you solve their problems for them. But you've got to get with that kind of person. So, okay, Fate Wind, I agree with you that the kindred spirit relations is something that you might feel an initial burst of connectivity, especially if you don't know anything about cognitive functions, only to discover that the tool function polar thing causes immense conflicts pretty quick. So I would agree with you that they're probably an initial super high sense of connectivity because you have the same dominant function, immediately followed by, within a couple of weeks at least, by, okay, I cannot deal with this person.
So that would be the INTJ, INFJ relationship?
Correct. And I suspect that's what Homegirl's in as well, the one I typed this morning.
Oh, really?
It sounds like it. It sounds just like your INTJ.
Wow. I hope to talk to her.
I hope you do too. I think you guys could have a meaningful girl conversation. And, when you're in the middle of that thing, even if you're an INFJ, you are going to have occasional doubts as to what ought to be done, at least about it, or how to think about it, maybe even potentially. INFJs are fortunate because they're less prone to internalizing other people's bullshit than other types. They see the truth, and so it's like, no matter how much gaslighting they undergo, they never really internalize it. They just think, God, the world's fucked up. Everybody's full of shit. They have faith in their knowledge. So,
and with the gaslighting too, it's crazy making because it's the INFJ knows the truth, but is being told no, it's not a big deal, or it didn't happen that way, or you're hearing it wrong, and then it's I know that you did these things to me.
Well, New Jack, we could put it in different ways that don't even involve any typing terms, and I think you'd note that it's really about, typology is a metaframe, but it's also a school of ontology. So he discovered this channel because he's interested in Michelle Shocked and my recent Michelle Shocked videos. That's how he discovered the channel, right? Anyway, so the thing is this. What we're really saying there, New Jack, is that Rachel is a knowing type, which is to say that she's a person who prefers to observe first and foremost, who likes to have a lot of knowledge about a circumstance before going into it and making decisions and doing things. And that there are other kinds of priorities that other people have. Like for me, I like to start talking and see where it goes. That's a very different approach to the universe. If we're going to understand the universe at all, since all of our philosophical understandings follow from observation, in other words, everything supervenes upon observation, then recognizing that attention, which all manner of attention is really a form of observation, can be both taxonomy, that is to say, broken down into kinds of attention, and more importantly, that prioritizing or habitually attending via one means necessarily affects one's value matrix, how one values the world. So for me, I've got, well, look, Sean Ryan Barron, I'm not saying INFJs get themselves out of that. I'm just saying they don't internalize the bullshit. So, anyway, even if you don't buy the notion that people are habitually being via the same manners of attention configuration consistently across time, it's still worth noting that to prioritize a given approach towards life is something that we can meaningfully talk about. So the fact that you're here talking and hearing about ideas like these rather than watching a soccer game or something, and if you're consistently prioritizing this kind of thing over the soccer games, even if you do occasionally watch the soccer games, you're going to have some sort of relationship like this. If I'm always watching videos about philosophy and stuff, then I'm going to find it a relief when I watch a sporting event. If I'm always watching sporting events, I'm going to find it a relief when I watch something ideational. In other words, everybody gets sick of something that gets too repetitive over time and wants to switch it up, wants a little bit of variation in their life. One of the things that makes typing challenging, therefore, is that people who don't understand typology tend to think that you're putting people in boxes, that you're saying, well, just because you're just so long as you're I forgot where I was going because I got distracted by new groups thing. No, you can't change and love them simultaneously if it's a baby even. Your job is not to change your baby. Your job is to help your baby realize who they are in the most optimal fashion as they grow from an early stage of development into adulthood. Oh, putting them in boxes. Yeah, typology is not about putting people in boxes. It's about recognizing the fact that you can't have your cake and eat it too in life. If, in fact, I prioritize fairness as an absolute value, then I'm going to sacrifice efficiency if it's unfair. Well, this is the most efficient way to get this thing done. Yeah, but it treats those parties unfairly. Let's not do it that way. This is a continual battle in the universe between utilitarianism and deontology. No, don't shape your baby. Let your baby be your baby. You know, the idea that we can, because we are wise and adults and knowledgeable or whatever, that we can know what's best for another person is hubris. Ultimately, what's best for another person is for that person to become the optimal version of themselves, whatever that may be. Our notion of what their optimal version of self is projecting our own frame bias onto them. I have a child, and let me tell you something. Maybe it's because she's an ESTP, but I did try to shape her. Okay. I did try to shape her some. For example, I tried to convince her that makeup and clothes were stupid. I did my best. I did my absolute best to convince her that makeup and jewelry and clothes were just ways that business people exploited women's weird obsession with their appearance. And she's a smart girl. She's TI tool. It seemed like I was going to win this battle. I thought there's no problem. Well, I didn't win it at all. She loves makeup. She loves clothes and jewelry and stuff. She loves all that shit. Why? Because no matter how hard I tried, I couldn't change Delilah from being a girl. She's just a girl who's a girly girl, kind of, in a way, while also being kind of tough as nails. But she likes that stuff. She likes all that girl stuff. So what can I do? I mean, I tried to say, you don't like this, but I was, you got two choices at that point. Either you become this tyrant parent who tries to force things on your children all the time, or you learn to accept them as they are and love them as they are. My point is that loving somebody is not trying to change them into the person you want them to be. I agree that child labor is not all bad if it's your parents making you labor. I spent a lot of my childhood being compelled to do various forms of labor, and I don't regret it at all or feel resentful about it at all. I think it helped make me into a more disciplined person than I might otherwise have been, a more productive person than I might otherwise have been. And I don't think that's a bad thing. So I'm not saying you shouldn't force your kids to do stuff. I'm saying you shouldn't try to force your kids to be stuff. I mean, look, child labor is great, assuming you have a job that you don't want to do and a child that you can force to do it, right? But it's pretty hard to get children to do a lot of jobs. When I was a child, the jobs I had to do were, I did a lot of painting of the properties my parents had up in the desert. They were kind of like slumlords a little bit, I guess. Not really slumlords. We tried to be good landlords, but we had kind of slummy people. Now, the thing is, so did I have a choice about whether I could go up to the desert and help paint the apartments? No, I didn't have any choice. I had to go. And that's not necessarily bad. But the thing is, my parents weren't trying to force me to like that. They weren't trying to force me to want to do that. They weren't trying to force me to initiate those kind of things myself. They just said, sorry, you don't have a choice. You have to go and do this. But I mean, they'd also pay me some nominal amount of money. And so, it's like I earned money with chores and extra work like that I had to do. And that was cool. They were also pretty understanding about a lot of things too. So it's not like they were over the top about it, but I did have to go spend a lot of weekends doing work on the properties, whether it was cleaning, painting, scraping paint, taking stuff to the dump with my dad. I spent a lot of time up there in the high desert. But it helps me to be a better person, for sure. It helped me to be a much better person to have to do things. Let's say I were the child of landlords who just had property management, and I just enjoyed the financial benefits of it with no sense of the work that went into it. Well, that's not a good thing. So I'm glad they made me go and do the work that earned the family money. It's fair, reasonable, just, and it helped me to be a more productive and disciplined person. Now, note, it didn't get me into painting. It's not like I decided because I was doing that work as a kid that now I've got a skill. I'm learning the skills that I'll use as an adult. No, I do not want to be a house painter. I hate that kind of shit. But I appreciate that I had to do it anyway. And it helps me to be better at things that I'm naturally bad at. The thing is, I also had to go on vacations I didn't want to go on with my parents. But it doesn't mean I regret having gone, even though I was always arguing that they should leave me at home, let me stay by myself and play with my friends around here while they were gone. I started arguing that at an age much too young for them to actually leave me at home, but so they didn't, and they never really did. It's like I never really got that what I wanted, which was you go on vacation and leave me here, okay? That's what I want. I don't want to go on vacation with you, and I don't want you to stay here. I want you to go away on vacation and leave me here so I can do whatever the fuck I want. But they didn't really ever do that. I always had to go on vacation with them, which was cool too. I mean, it's like a lot of times they let me bring a friend with me and stuff like that. So I had great parents and a great childhood, and also I wasn't free of duties. So I'm not saying don't. When I say don't try to change people, that doesn't mean don't hold them accountable at all. Like, Rachel takes it upon herself to do the laundry, and she's really very much on top of it. I hear her talk about it fairly often as to, I'm supposed to do the laundry today or something like that.
Yeah, like I realize I'm a week behind.
And I think it's really important that one of us does the laundry, and I'm grateful for her for doing it. But I also, I'm also not ever thinking about what things Rachel ought to be doing. If I'm thinking about that kind of thing, I would say I'm much more worried about whether Rachel's happy, fulfilled, satisfied, whether I'm being a good enough partner and stuff. I'm not worried about how Rachel needs to be different than how she is. And if you are, then you're not in the right relationship. Kirsty believes all the NTs desire autonomy. Well, I mean, I think that the NTPs, ENTPs, and ESTPs actually are the types that probably most desire autonomy, followed by INTPs and ISTPs. I think the NTJs, they desire control more than autonomy, which is a little bit different. Eric, do you have a technical distinction between the verbs conversing and dying? When I say I'm conversing, two objects can be inferred, another person and a topic being talked about, but from dying, nothing further can be concluded. Well, so the thing is, with conversing, well, let's change the verb conversing to chatting up. So conversing is fundamentally, although it's technically not, a transitive verb, which is to say it takes an object. To say that I'm conversing implies that you're conversing with somebody. If you say I'm talking up Jenny, then you get the idea that in fact you're really saying if I say I'm conversing Jenny, it's wrong English, right? If you say I'm conversing with Jenny, then it's correct. But regardless of the prepositional phrase, fundamentally, there's something transitive about conversing. Then there's something intransitive about dying. In other words, things that are reflexive which is to say they imply the pronoun himself, herself, yourself, me, myself, whatever. Those kind of things are the things that implicitly have an intransitive quality. I don't yawn something, I just yawn. Now, converse is an interesting verb because it specifically is linking an interface thing. And so it's not taking an object because it's saying, I'm interfacing. And then it'll tell you something about the context with Joe. I'm talking up Joe would suggest you're treating Joe as an object. I'm conversing with Joe suggests you're treating Joe as a partner in an interface, which interestingly and nicely links to the fact that interfacing and acting with words are different things. I've got to go pee now.
I can also help you with that.
You're going to hold my penis while I pee?
No. Oh, there you are. No, New Jack, I'm not sure you want to see it. I don't think he should do it on camera. I mean, you can't really see anything. Hi, Fate Wind.
Well, can they see anything over there?
No.
Okay.
They want to. Or New Jack wants to.
That'd be considered unnecessarily crass.
Yes. New Jack really wants to see it. He says.
TFP, we're a classy organization. Here,
yeah. We're real classy.
We're too classy for that kind of stuff. Oh. Actually, I think I have to poo now. I'm going to go inside because I have to poo.
No, I'm my own person. Do I remind you of that diamond guy?
I'll be back. I'm going to poo.
Okay. New groove. I like that. The correlation there. New Jack equal R. Kelly. He likes them golden showers. He does. R. Kelly will forever be known as the golden shower singer. Monogatari series. Which platform can you see it on? Can you see it on Crunchyroll? I'll bring it up to him. We're always looking for new anime to watch. Yes, this is from the Redbubble site. I gotta. This is the dress that you can get, and it's like super nice. It's like made out of, I think, I don't know what it's made out of. It's not cotton though. Thank you. It's really comfortable, and I really like the shape. It's like an A-line shape. So like for people who have a little bit of a belly like me, it's nice because it flares out at the stomach, and it's more flowy than tight. And there's a lot of things you can get at the shop. Let me see. I'm gonna get the shop.
Here we go. There's lots of different things you can get in the shop. It's really cool. Yeah. It's definitely, I think it is polyester. That was my guess too, Winston's mom. But I didn't want to speak before I actually knew. But I think it is some form of it. New Jack, you mean like Waterfalls, the song by TLC? I'd sing it, but I don't want to get a copyright. I like that song, Waterfalls. New Jack, TLC was the ish back in the day. I remember that song Waterfalls and Spice Girls, If You Want to Be My Lover, came out, and those two girl groups were huge. Girl groups used to be like the thing. It was, I mean, pop groups, I guess, in general were a thing. Really beautiful doing. You tried to sell stuff on Redbubble last year and earned a cool sum of $0 USD. That's interesting. I wonder why. I mean, we've had 2 sales off of it already that haven't been ours. So hopefully, we're hoping that more people, honestly, for the average famous people shirt.
I added a new TWFP design last night.
Oh, I see it. Is that you on the phone?
Yeah.
That's great. So if you like Eric's shirts when he wears them, or when I wear one, you could get yours here. Yes, wannabe. Yeah, wannabe. If you want to be my lover. They were all about the late 1990s. The Spice Girls. TLC 2. Are you sure, New Jack? Are you sure you don't know? If you want to be my lover, you gotta get with my friends. Make it last forever, 'cause friendship never ends. If you want to be my lover, you have got to give. Taking it is too easy, 'cause that's the way it is. Now what you think about that? Now you know how I feel. What can you handle, my love? Are you for real? Yeah, host Eric is the next Spice Girl. He's got all that spice. Yes, K.E., you know. Are you for real? Now don't go wasting my precious time. Blah, 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 it'll be just fine. Yo, tell you what I want, what I really, really want. So tell me what you want, what you really, really want. I really want Rachel, I have been checking out the hotel and I will likely get a suite so we could have an open room to hang out in. I'll come in a day or so early and be over at the hotel while you guys are at the wedding. Cool.
So you're talking about the Garden Inn?
Yeah, that's what I'm wondering too. I was just going to ask the same thing.
Because that would be helpful because the thing is, we're going to have to check out of the Conrad some hours before we check into the Garden Inn. Whose wedding? It's Rachel's cousin's wedding. We're going to in Indianapolis on the 22nd.
Yeah, my cousin Brian is getting married to Kelsey. Oh, sweet.
Cool. How do you come to the suspicion that a client thinks they're a certain type? Obviously, you probably think you're X, but I'm commenting you're Y. Usually it's when I can intuit that they've intuited that I'm interpreting a given answer as meh, and they think it's underrepresenting their meh. So, like, for example, if somebody gives me a lot of SE style answers and then immediately goes, but I want to stress, and then talks about their self-reports on their own creativity, then they're clearly concerned that I'm interpreting them as SE and that they think that they're any, probably. I mean, I don't know for sure. It's an FE read, you know. So it usually happens when I think a client understands what I'm doing pretty well and why I'm doing it. You love weed, but you have none. Well, I guess that's better than having weed but not loving it at all. There's the upside, right? There's a silver lining.
Host Derek always finding the silver linings.
The spicy Indigo Girls are the short-lived combination of the two bands. It's not better. But I mean, if you had weed but didn't love it, then that means you wouldn't be somebody who enjoyed weed, and that'd be sad. Yeah, okay, I'll have to learn how to play La Vida Loca, though. I don't know how to play it.
Ooh, we're going to honor Ricky Martin.
Well, the thing is, if you don't have something you want, you can get it. If you have something you don't want, it won't solve any problems at all. You could trade it, I guess, something you do want. Like, I once took an ounce of weed to Taylor, the president in Kansas, and he traded it for different drugs. He didn't want the weed. That was fine. I still felt perfectly happy about it because if you got something you can trade for drugs, then it's the same thing as having drugs, I guess.
That's the whole idea about giving the gift, is for the person to be happy.
Right. A beautiful Dwayne asks the interesting question, hey, Eric, what do you look for in a real big boyfriend?
Very interesting.
What do I look for in a male friend? You know, to be honest, I don't really have any male friends that I'm actively friends with anymore. I mean, I have a lot of people I would call my friends, but I just don't seem to reach out to them, try to do things with them anymore. Although I would say that is more attributable to their general lack of interest in hanging out from some time back, And oh yeah, Cam. Right. I do have a male friend who I see all the time. Cameron. I forgot about him. Sorry, Cameron. I forgot about Cameron. Yeah, Cameron.
Yeah.
Cameron's my male friend.
Yeah.
What do I look for in a male friend? Low expectations and mutual fun. And that's it.
Yeah.
You know, I don't have time or interest in having a lot of people putting a lot of expectations on me. The kind of people who can put expectations on me include a very small inner circle, like Rachel, basically, and you know.
Yeah, my circle's small too. My circle is Eric and also Cameron.
Well, KE, I tend to designate everybody a friend, whether they are or not, as long as they're not an enemy, you know. So I don't really. My real IRL friends, people that I've known for a long time, like Dave Porter, we have a lot of history, and that's never going to change. I've known him since I was 3 years old, and we've been friends since I was 3 years old. And I just, nevertheless, don't find myself spending a lot of time with them because, frankly, I mean, ENTPs kind of grow out of things that have just FE rewards. It's got to do more than just have an FE reward. Hanging out with Dave is great if we're playing music or something, but we got to kind of do something. When I was younger, I'd be perfectly happy just chatting, hanging out, smoking cigarettes, drinking coffee, chatting, you know. Dave Porter plays the guitar. If you're interested in hearing Dave's guitar playing, so in this song here, which I recorded when I had my shortly lived band, Talking to Thin People band, he's playing the guitar on this one. Well, he's playing one of the guitars. He's playing the electric guitar with the cool sounding amp. Well, I'm playing that. But going to the low, up mountain, going to the low. Like that's him, you know. Going to the low. That's him. Up mountain, going to the low.
Have you chosen the low for its scenic mountain air or its fresh mountain sunshine? The low is the perfect choice for all manner of choosings.
Mountain sunshine on the trees. So yeah, he plays leads on that song, and I used his amp for one of my guitar parts as well. You see how I covered in speckles, Rachel, in this picture?
Oh my gosh.
You see?
How?
I just messed around with it in GIMP until it looked like that. So, for those of you who'd like to see what this new design looks like, it looks like this. Bye, New Groove. Don't forget to eat plenty of cheese.
How did you get out of the house?
I let her out.
Oh, okay. Oh, the winner.
Yeah, KE. I mean, the thing is, ENTPs have a weird kind of thing going on, which is we close the distance fast. I can chat with somebody I meet at a party, bond with them a great deal, be like, oh my God, this is, there's so much in common here. We should be friends or something. But then the next day I'm on to something else. It's like I'm not that. I meet a lot of people. I'm able to close the distance with a lot of people. And most people that I close the distance with, no matter how much compatibility I have with them, I just don't have room or time for them in my life, really. And,
Wow.
It's just how it is.
I just saw the big blue fish bite the little blue fish.
Do you think he's guilty of domestic violence? Is that what you're saying? Wow,
yeah,
about?
but it kind of looks like that. I don't know what's
I don't think
going
he's
on.
biting. I think he's just sort of nipping
maybe
at her,
nudging her.
nudging her, yeah.
Because she's in the corner right now, so maybe he's like, "Get out of there."
Yeah. The older you get, the less time you feel you have for people in general. So it's like I've got my dad, who requires a certain amount of attention, not a great deal of attention, and then Rachel and I do the things we do, even when we're not being particularly productive. It seems like it doesn't take but a couple of things to fill up a day, So I'm happy that the number of typing sessions is increasing. I've got one tomorrow. I've got one on Thursday. And, that makes me happy. Makes some money. And I feel as though probably the one thing that reliably helps the channel and helps me and my legitimacy and everything as much as anything else is just publishing typing session videos is it's a very worthwhile thing to do, because they typically get better numbers than my other videos and they afford me legitimacy. And for an hour-long video, I think they're actually quite quite an interesting hour video. The thing is, sure, the typing thing has to be classified as a business, but right now I'm not making enough money at it to worry about so much what the IRS has to say about it. You've got to make more than like $12,000 a year, and I'm not really, until maybe at this point I'm starting to make more than that if we were to extrapolate out. But what is that fish breed that starts with C? Cichlid. Or cod. Catfish.
Wow.
Well, having FI polar is, it's the same as every other polar. The blessed thing about our polar for everybody is nobody can ever really realize and feel what a tragedy it is that they're so inattentive on that channel. So it's like, it seems as though FI polar is a good polar to have, that it doesn't have a lot of visible shortcomings. But the reason it seems that way is because it's not taking into account the fact that there are long-term harms that are less easy to spot in the moment when you're dealing with somebody. So I was in a really unhealthy relationship for 2.5 years where I was getting shat upon continually for 2.5 years. It took me 2.5 years to realize, okay, my feelings matter enough that this is not okay. Why? Because I'm FI polar. Most people, it's not going to take them that long to recognize that. Eric, what's your FI and FE, by the way? I don't remember. What did I type you? I don't remember what I typed you as.
As an INFJ.
And your FI is 6 and your FE is 2. Okay, if you're hosting a tea party and everyone is boring, I want you to invite them all to come in and listen to this live stream. Hi, tea party people. Welcome. Welcome to America.
Hi.
In America, we drink coffee, but we're not going to shit on you for drinking tea.
We actually made some sun tea last week.
We didn't drink any of it. We made it.
I drank some of it.
Oh. I typed you as ISFJ. Still the same thing. FI6, FE2. I always find FI trickster so interesting. How would someone not know how they feel? FI 7th slot, you mean, or polar? Well, it's not that you don't know how you feel. Like, if there's something that prompts a particularly negative emotional response to me, I will know that I don't feel happy about it. It's much easier for me to determine things that I don't like than things that I do. The issue with FI polar is a little bit more subtle than that. It's that I know how I feel in the moment, but I don't really learn a whole hell of a lot from it. So when we're watching anime, you would conclude probably that I have a lot more FI than Rachel does, because I am just, generally speaking, a pretty easy audience member. Whatever the show is trying to do, unless it's doing a terrible job of it, it's like I'm watching the show. If they're doing a good job of it, when it's supposed to be exciting, I'm excited. When it's funny, I'm laughing. When it's sad, I'm crying. And I'm showing nothing but FI emotion. But the thing is, that is specifically referencing me being able to experience emotions in the moment. In that regard, Rachel is more distant from her emotions. She doesn't physically manifest them. She's not. It's harder to make her for a show to make her cry or laugh or be excited or whatever. In other words, she doesn't as completely make the leap as I do, and as a consequence. But it's also because she countervalues her emotions in the 6th slot, and mine are actually an absolute value. So I just experience them in real time, but I don't remember particularly experiencing them in the sense that I don't make particular note of it. I don't think they're relevant to anything. I don't make decisions predicated on them, nor do I think they mean anything in particular. It's just me having an experience. Experiences don't mean things. Meanings mean things. You know?
Yeah. I noticed that my body, if say I haven't had like a good cry in a while, that my body stores the like feelings in different parts of my body. It's weird. Like stress is definitely in my shoulders. I have very poor posture. That's also because.
Well, we use the same word for both of them. SI and FI, we use the word feeling, but we should say you have SI sensations. So if my stomach hurts, are we supposed to do a typing session right now, Kyra? Did I schedule that for today or tomorrow? Did I forget when I scheduled it for?
You had 1 at 10.
I know I did. I forget what I told Kyra. Oh, what do you know? My bad. All right, I'm gonna wrap up this live stream. My bad, Kyra. Sorry.
Sorry. Thank you for coming.
Thanks
into the room.
for coming in and reminding me. Appreciate it. All right. See y'all later. Don't forget to eat plenty of cheese. What advice would you give your ENTP friend? You know, bite the bullet. I understand that, yes, love and pain go hand in hand, and yada, yada, yada.